Trump's fossil fuel embrace, a global gamble with catastrophic climate consequences. Donald Trump's presidency is marked by a relentless pursuit of fossil fuels, a strategy that prioritizes short-term economic gains over the long-term existential threat of climate change. His administration's actions paint a stark picture: a deliberate effort to keep the world reliant on planet-heating fossil fuels, regardless of the devastating consequences for vulnerable populations and the global environment. This isn't merely a domestic policy. It's a global strategy woven into international agreements and leveraged through economic and military influence. A global push for fossil fuels, asterisk. Trump's drill, baby, drill mantra isn't just rhetoric, it's a blueprint for international engagement. His administration is actively working to bolster the global flow of oil and gas, employing U.S. leverage, tariffs, and military aid to achieve this goal. Deals with countries like Japan and Ukraine are structured to increase fossil fuel reliance, while in Africa, the administration champions the revival of coal, the most polluting fossil fuel. This advocacy for coal in Africa is particularly striking. U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright openly dismisses concerns about coal's environmental impact, calling criticism paternalistic and asserting that coal transformed our world and made it better. This statement, delivered at the CERAWeek Oil Industry Conference, underscores the administration's unwavering commitment to fossil fuels, even in the face of overwhelming scientific evidence. Wright further attacked Joe Biden's climate policies as irrational, quasi-religious, and flatly denied the feasibility of transitioning to renewable energy sources, a claim directly contradicted by energy experts worldwide. This strategy finds willing partners. Robert Strick, chair of Strick Global Diplomacy, a consultancy facilitating U.S.-funded oil and gas projects in Africa, highlights the opportunities for U.S. investors created by Trump's deregulation. He hails Secretary Wright's stance as a genius move, showcasing the alignment of interests between the Trump administration and those seeking to profit from fossil fuel exploitation. This collaboration underscores the potential for significant environmental damage and the undermining of efforts to transition to cleaner energy sources across the continent. The devastating impact on Africa, asterisk. The consequences of this policy are particularly dire for Africa. The continent is heating up faster than the global average, already experiencing increased floods, heat waves, and droughts, climate extremes that are costing African nations up to 5% of their GDP. While Africa has contributed minimally to global greenhouse gas emissions, it bears the brunt of the climate crisis fueled by the consumption of fossil fuels in wealthier nations. Mohamed Ado, founder and director of Power Shift Africa, powerfully contrasts the benefits of American fossil fuels with their devastating consequences. One of the transformations caused by American fossil fuels was destroying our previously well-balanced climate and plunging some of the poorest and most vulnerable people in Africa into a life dealing with extreme weather and lost homes and livelihoods. He rightly emphasizes the need for financial assistance from wealthy nations like the U.S. to develop renewable energy infrastructure in Africa. However, Trump's administration has slashed aid intended for this very purpose, further hindering Africa's ability to adapt to and mitigate the impacts of climate change. This action stands in stark contrast to the claims of assisting African nations. Instead, it actively exacerbates existing vulnerabilities. Undermining global climate efforts, asterisk. Trump's fossil fuel focus extends beyond Africa. His administration lifted a Biden-era ban on U.S. natural gas exports, and deals are being pursued with countries like Japan and South Korea, incentivized partly by the threat of tariffs, to increase reliance on American LNG. This fuels a global increase in fossil fuel consumption, directly contradicting the urgent need for a global shift towards renewable energy sources. The temporary shutdown of the Freeport LNG export terminal in 2022 due to a major explosion and fire serves as a stark reminder of the inherent dangers associated with fossil fuel infrastructure and the environmental risks involved in its extraction and transportation. The proposed deal with Ukraine presents another troubling dimension. While Ukraine actively pursues renewable energy development despite the ongoing war with Russia, this deal prioritizes access to Ukraine's mineral resources, including oil and gas, potentially reversing the country's progress towards cleaner energy and locking it into fossil fuel dependence. Svetlana Romanko, a Ukrainian environmental lawyer, warns that this deal could represent a devastating setback for a country that has sacrificed so much for its independence. The implications are far-reaching. Jonathan Elkind, a global energy expert at Columbia University, highlights that Trump's slashing of domestic renewable energy support and international aid programs undermines global efforts to reduce emissions. He emphasizes that people around the world need climate solutions, not only people in very poor economies, but also in the U.S. But Donald Trump has made clear he's not going to address this problem on his watch. In conclusion, Trump's unwavering commitment to fossil fuels represents a grave threat to the global climate. His actions, both domestically and internationally, actively work against the urgent need for a transition to clean energy, jeopardizing the well-being of vulnerable populations worldwide and exacerbating the climate crisis. The long-term consequences of this short-sighted strategy are catastrophic and far-reaching, placing the planet's future at risk. The pursuit of short-term economic gains at the expense of planetary health highlights a profound moral and ethical failure. The international community must resist this dangerous trajectory and prioritize a just and equitable transition to a sustainable future powered by renewable energy.